Hi, my name is Lori, and I am so happy to share with you one of my very favorite topics in the world, honeybees. So under the big category of bee, there's three types. There are bumblebees, which are the really fat ones. There's solitary bees, which are really numerous and native to Alberta. Those are the ones where if you make a bug hotel, it's for the solitary bees. And then the third category are honeybees, and that's what I'll be talking about in today's presentation. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the life cycle of the honeybee. Now, when the queen lays her eggs, she determines the gender of each specific egg she lays. And she can also lay up to 2,000 eggs every single day. So once that egg is laid, it grows until it's a small larva, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it is ready to go through metamorphosis. That's right, we cannot all be as magnificent as butterflies. So when they're ready for that metamorphosis, that honeycomb, that cell that they were born in, gets capped by wax, and they go through that metamorphosis. When they're born, they poke their way through there, and right away on their wobbly legs, they go through their very first life stage. That is, they become a cleaner bee. So that makes me think about when I was young and I had to clean my room as one of my very first jobs. That's just like bees. They go around within seconds of being born on their wobbly legs. They go down and they start cleaning that honeycomb. So they do that for several days, and that is the first thing that they do as part of their hive. That honeycomb, it can be used after they clean it. It can be used for either more brood or to store pollen or to store honey. So that same those same cells, that same honeycomb can be used for numerous things. Now, the next job that they do is to become a nurse bee. So the nurse bee's job is to take care of all the eggs and all the larvae. They give them a special excretion called royal jelly. Which is very high in nutrients, and they give them pollen, they give them all of their food. And that makes me think of when I was young and I was a babysitter as my second job in life, just like it's the second job for the bees. Now, once they're done that, the third job they do is they become a wax bee. Now, wax bees are the architects of the bee world. On their abdomen, on the underside, there are 6 wax glands that excrete the wax. They take that wax out and arrange that in that honeycomb shape, which is pretty cool. After they're done being wax bees, the next job that bees do are they become an aid to the queen. This means they go around, they gather around the queen, they tell her how lovely she is, they stroke her back, they give her her food. Queen bees are far too busy to get food for themselves, laying up to 2,000 eggs a day in the summertime. And they count the number of eggs that she lays. That way, if she's not laying enough, they can keep track of it and decide if they need to requeen. Now, once they're done that, then they become an undertaker bee. Undertaker bees have the very important job of clearing out any dead or diseased bees from the hive. It makes me think of that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where they're like, "Bring out your dead!" So they go around and they will lift up the dead bees and carry them out of the hive, bring them a little bit away, and then drop them. And then they go back to the hive, find the next dying bee, and take them out. Now, bees only live for 6 to 8 weeks, and in the summer, their population goes up to around 80,000. So it's quite a busy job. Now, the next job is a guard bee. For guard bees, it's really the first time that they've been out in the sun for any length of time. Every job until now has been primarily inside the hive where it's dark. For the first time, they're spending some quality time outside, and they have an incredibly important job of protecting their sisters and their queen in the hive. So they want to make sure that no robber bees come and try to steal their honey. They want to make sure that no wasps steal their honey. They want to make sure that no bears or skunks steal their honey. So they make sure that anything that passes through the entrance of the beehive came from their hive. Now they do that by smelling each bee with their antenna. So each queen has a very specific scent, her pheromone scent, and each hive smells differently if you're a bee. Us humans can't tell the difference, but bees can. So they go down with their antenna and they can smell that that bee came from their own hive, so they let that bee in. But if a bee came from a different hive, they typically will not let that bee in. So it's a very important job. The final job for a bee is to be a forager bee. So whenever you see a bee off pollinating a flower, know that it is already in its life contributed so much to its hive and to her sisters. So forager bees actually have a few jobs. One job is to collect nectar from flowers. They do this by sucking up their proboscis. So their proboscis is like their tongue, but it's curled. It's sort of like this. And they suck up that delicious nectar from the flower. And they put that nectar in a special place. Bees actually have two stomachs. They put it in their honey stomach, which is more like a storage compartment for that nectar. Now, if they get hungry on the way back, they can transfer a little bit of that nectar from their honey stomach into their actual stomach, which they will digest. But their honey stomach is just storage until they get back to the hive, where they would regurgitate that nectar to turn into honey, which is the most delicious regurgitation you will ever taste. So their second job is to collect pollen. So one way that you can tell if an insect is a bee or a wasp is by looking at how fuzzy they are. Bees are fuzzy all over. Even between their eyes, they are fuzzy. So as they fly, that actually creates static electricity between all that fuzziness. So when they land on a flower, all that pollen sticks right to them. And as they're flying away, they use their front legs to get it off of their eyes, and then they move it to their middle legs, and then they use their middle legs to move all that pollen to their back legs, and then they actually have a pollen pocket on the back legs. So when I'm inspecting my beehives, I can look at their back legs, and I can often tell which types of flowers they were near. For example, dandelions are a very important food source for bees, and they have almost like a darker kind of orange color pollen. So I can be like, aha, I can tell what that bee has been foraging. So one thing that many people don't know about bees is that they don't just have their two compound eyes. They actually have 5 eyes. In addition to those compound eyes, they have 3 eyes up there on their forehead. Now those eyes, they can't really see with them. They have only one purpose, but it's a crucial one. It's to detect the position of the sun. And so they use that to navigate. So as they're flying around, they keep track of where the sun is, and then they can find their way back home. But there's another place that they use it that's even more interesting. So say a bee flies off. They have a foraging radius of about 5 kilometers in any direction of the hive. So say they go off 3 kilometers and they find this magnificent wildflower field. Excellent, she thinks. She will come back to the hive and she will communicate its exact location to the hive. And how they do that is through its position to the sun. So if you imagine those three eyes finding out where the sun is, I want you to picture a clock, up and down. Up, 12 o'clock is where the sun is. Let's say that the position of those wildflowers were 90 degrees to the left of the sun. What she will do is, in her hive, she will do a waggle down. She will waggle 90 degrees to the left of up. Waggle, waggle, waggle. She'll walk around like this. Waggle, waggle, waggle. She'll walk around like that. So it makes a figure 8 in total. The length of the waggling run is how long it is. Each second of waggling is approximately a kilometer. And the amount of excitement in her waggle is how amazing it is. So say she waggles, she goes around, waggles, goes around. Remember, all of this is in the dark of the hive, which adds this whole other element. The other bees near her are sensing her excitement and following her movement. And she does this because bees don't just think of the glory for themselves. They're like, we need our whole hive in on this action for the survival of our colony. A bunch of bees will follow those directions to go find that wildflower fields. Now, when it comes to bees, there are so many things I love talking about, but my very favorite fact is this. A single honeybee, through the course of her entire life, will make only 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. It's nothing. I mean, it's insignificant. And the colony has this big problem. They have to make 100 pounds of honey just to survive our winters here in Alberta. Now that lone bee, she doesn't look at that problem and say it's impossible. No, she just gets to work. And together, she and her sisters don't just make that 100 pounds, they can double it. And the best part is that they don't even do it for themselves. They're doing it for their sisters who will be born in the spring and who will take their colony through till the next season. Her 1/12 of a teaspoon counts. And sometimes when I go through my own life, I keep that as my mantra, that there's so many problems I can't solve, but I can put my 1/12 of a teaspoon towards a solution. And I know that you can as well. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation.